Even though Fumalayer knew she was ugly, that she wasn't born pretty, but she didn't really feel so bad about it until she stepped her foot into the elite girls' noble academy, where every moment of her life she was being reminded of how ugly she looked. Fumalayer also stopped looking at mirrors altogether because what was the point? No matter how much she looked at them, she could never still be as pretty as the school mothers or even the other students. Have you ever wondered what it feels like to be called the ugliest in your school? To be hated, mocked, ridiculed, and bullied by everyone, all because you are considered ugly in a school full of beauties. Well, this was exactly the case for Fumalayer Bankole, who was a student of the elite girls' Noble Academy, an all-girls secondary school where only the country's most beautiful girls roamed the hallways of the school. Unlike any other school, the elite girls' Noble Academy was known for its high beauty standards amongst its students. The school was considered a haven that harbored the most beautiful girls, and any student who didn't match up to their standards was considered ugly, an outcast, and one who didn't deserve a place amongst them or in their school. After any girl was admitted into the academy, she would first undergo a process which was known as the beauty check, where she will be scrutinized by a group of 3 very beautiful senior girls, who were seen as the mothers of the school, the ones who were in charge of anything and everything that goes on in the school. And only after a girl passes the beauty check will she then officially be considered as one of them. But if she doesn't, then she will be considered an outcast and become a target for the whole school and will be bullied till she is forced to leave the school. The school mothers did this, knowing that they didn't have the authority to determine who gets admitted into the school, but they were able to decide who stays or not. And this was how the students of the elite girls' Noble Academy was able to maintain its reputation of having the most beautiful female students in the country. Fumalayer Bankole was the daughter of Mr. Bankole, a wealthy businessman. Fumalayer's mother had passed away a few years ago when she was just 10 years old, leaving her all alone with her father, who barely had her time. He was always so busy with his business, always away on one business trip or the other. Fumalayer and her father had recently moved from Abuja to Lagos City, due to a business plan her father had in mind. After their relocation, Fumalayer got enrolled in the elite girls' Noble Academy, and ever since then, every day of her life has been like hell. Fumalayer wasn't born pretty, unlike some other girls at the academy. In fact, she was very far away from that. Having been called ugly for as long as she could remember, Fumalayer had come to accept her fate, but that was until she stepped foot into the elite girls' Noble Academy, a school where ugliness was considered to be a huge crime. From her first day at the academy, after not passing the beauty check, Fumalayer became an object of target for the whole school and its bullies. "Hey, ugly!" one of the girls shouted as Fumalayer entered her classroom. She tried to ignore it, focusing on finding her seat. But before she could sit, someone had slipped something disgusting on her chair. It was a mess of chewed gum. "Oops, looks like you sat in it," another girl mocked. Fumalayer stood, trying to remain calm. "Why are you all doing this to me? What have I done?" "You exist. That's your crime," they replied as they began laughing and throwing crumpled papers at her, each with cruel words scribbled across them. "Ugly freak, one read. Go back to the trash where you belong," said another. No matter where she turned, the torment followed. One morning, as Fumalayer entered the classroom, she was immediately drenched by a bucket of water that had been placed at the top of the door, making the entire class to erupt in laughter. "Didn't see that coming, did you, ugly?" a girl shouted from the back. Fumalayer stood there, soaked and humiliated, with nowhere to hide. She ran to the restroom, tears blurring her vision as she cried her sorrows away. On another occasion, as Fumalair was trying to make her way to class, she overheard two girls whispering, "Did you see her? She looks like a toad," one of them snickered. "What a disgrace to our school," the other replied, laughing. Fumalair's heart sank. She wished she could just disappear. Lunchtime was no better. Fumalair had taken to eating her meals in a secluded corner of the schoolyard. But one day, as she sat alone under a tree where she usually ate, a group of girls approached her. They were led by Tomowa, who was also another pretty student at the academy. "Who let this ogre into our school?" Tomowa sneered. Before Fumalair could react, they knocked her lunch to the ground, spilling her food everywhere. "That's what you deserve," Tomowa spat, leaving her to clean up the mess. Fumalair's heart broke the more with every torment of theirs. One afternoon, the school mothers approached her. "Fumalair," one of them began, her tone a mix of mockery and disdain, "if you want this bullying to stop, it's simple. Just leave." "But I can't. I need to finish my exams," Fumalair said with a racing heart. "Then prepare for more suffering because you can never belong here," one of the mothers replied coldly, as the others nodded in agreement. Fumalair had thought that the elite girls' noble academy was a place where she could just learn and be herself in peace, but she was very wrong. On several occasions, Fumalair encountered bullying not only from the school mothers, but from everyone in the school, including some junior students who bad-mouthed her whenever she passed by, speaking of how ugly she looked and how she was trying to ruin the school's reputation that they had worked so hard to maintain. Even though Fumalair was a senior student, they never gave her that respect. She wasn't even able to speak to her father about it because he was barely around and was always so busy with his business, having little to no time for her. Fumalair tried calling him once to talk about the bullying, but all he said was, "You have to be strong. I'm sure it's just a phase." A phase? No, this was torture. She felt invisible, insignificant. Every day, the bullying intensified, and with no one to confide in, Fumalair endured it alone. Most of the times Fumalair would cry herself to sleep wishing her mother was there to comfort her. Even though Fumalair knew she was ugly, that she wasn't born pretty, but she didn't really feel so bad about it until she stepped her foot into the elite girls' noble academy, where every moment of her life she was being reminded of how ugly she looked. Fumalair also stopped looking at mirrors altogether because what was the point? No matter how much she looked at them, she could never still be as pretty as the school mothers or even the other students. During lunch break, as Fumalair sat alone at her usual spot, a group of girls approached her. Among them was Amina, one of the loudest voices in class. "Fumalair, right?" Amina said sweetly, though her smile was far from kind. "You really thought you could blend in here?" Before Fumalair could respond, another girl threw a crumpled piece of paper at her. The others followed suit, tossing more papers and giggling. "Ugly duckling," one of the girls yelled, causing an uproar of laughter. Fumalair clenched her fists, fighting back the tears. She wished her father had never brought her to this school. Days turned into weeks, and the bullying only got worse. Fumalair tried her best to stay invisible, but the girls never let her be. They found every opportunity to torment her. One day, as she entered the classroom, someone had placed a whoopee cushion on her chair. As soon as she sat, a loud farting sound echoed through the room. Everyone burst into laughter. "Wow, she even sounds ugly," Amina teased. Fumalair felt the tears gathering in her eyes as she rushed out of the room, hiding in the bathroom to cry. She stared at her reflection in the mirror, hating what she saw. "Why did I have to be so ugly?" she whispered to herself, with tears streaming down her face. One afternoon, while sitting under a tree in a secluded corner of the school's compound, Fumalair was startled by a soft voice. "Hey, mind if I sit here?" She looked up to see Amina, the same girl who had mocked her mercilessly just days before. Fumalair tensed, unsure of what to expect. "I've been watching you," Amina continued, sitting down beside her. "You don't deserve all the bullying. I think I can help you." Fumalair blinked, surprised. "Why would you help me?" "Well, because I know what it feels like to be an outsider, to be rejected," Amina said, her tone sounding sincere. "There's a way for you to change all of this." "What do you mean?" Fumalair asked, getting confused. Amina leaned in closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Meet me here tomorrow after school, and I'll explain everything." Fumalair's heart raced. Could this be her way out? Fumalair couldn't concentrate in class the next day. Amina's words played over and over in her mind. What kind of help could she offer? Was it something real, or was this another cruel prank? After school, she returned to the secluded spot under the tree. Amina was already there, waiting. "You came," Amina said with a sly smile. "I knew you would." Fumalair swallowed nervously. "So what is this solution?" "Cosmetic surgery," Amina replied casually. "You change your appearance, become one of the beauties, and all this bullying stops. I know a doctor who can make you as pretty as the school mothers." "Surgery?" Fumalair's jaw dropped. "I don't think I can do that." "Well, just think about it," Amina said persuasively. "It's your only chance to survive here. Don't you want them to stop treating you like a piece of trash?" Fumalair felt torn. Could she really go through with something like that? Fumalair couldn't sleep that night. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying Amina's words in her head. The bullying had become unbearable, but surgery? Was that really the answer? Her mother's face flashed in her mind, soft, kind, and always full of love. She had never made Fumalair feel ugly, no matter how much others might have said so. But her mother was gone now, and Fumalair felt completely alone. The next morning, she looked in the mirror once again. This time, instead of turning away, she stared at her reflection. Maybe Amina was right. Maybe she needed to do something drastic to finally put an end to all of this. Fumalair made up her mind. She would meet Amina after school and tell her of the choice she had made. That same day she met Amina at the same spot again under the tree and agreed to go along with everything. Amina then warned Fumalair not to tell anyone about it, not even her father. A few days later Amina took Fumalair to a small clinic at the edge of town. The doctor, whose name was Mr. Hassan, was a middle-aged man who had on a cold, detached expression. "I can make you beautiful," he said, studying her face. "But it will cost you." Fumalair felt uneasy. "How much?" she asked. The price Dr. Hassan quoted was far beyond anything she could afford. But Amina assured her it would be worth it. "You'll finally be one of the school beauties, Fumalair. No one will ever dare to bully you again," Amina said, her voice sweet with a fake promise. But what Fumalair didn't know was that Amina had no intention of helping her. The doctor was in fact a fraud, and Amina had orchestrated everything just to humiliate her further. She and the doctor, who had no certificate or experience whatsoever, had planned to split the money after Fumalaire pays for the surgery, planning to touch up her face here and there a little bit so as to make it look like he actually performed a surgery on her. "You won't regret this," Amina said as Fumalaire handed over the money she'd been saving from the monthly allowances her father usually gave to her. Fumalaire, who just so much wanted to be pretty and accepted by all, had no idea that her life was about to take a tragic turn. The day of the surgery arrived, and as Fumalaire lay on the operating table, she thought of how her life would change. She imagined walking through the hallways, but this time around no longer as an outcast, but as one who would finally be acceptable in the eyes of all. As Dr. Hassan, who didn't know what he was doing, was carrying out the procedure, he cut a nerve which he wasn't supposed to, making Fumalaire to start bleeding, and not having enough equipment or facilities to handle the situation, Fumalaire eventually ended up bleeding to death. Upon realization that Fumalaire had actually died, Dr. Hassan abandoned her there and ran away for his life. The next day, the news spread like wildfire that a student of the elite Girls' Noble Academy was found dead in a roadside hospital. After some investigation, it was discovered that the student was none other than Fumalaire Bankole, and that the reason for her death was as a result of an unsuccessful cosmetic surgery. This news came as a strong blow not only to the entire school and its management, but also to Fumalaire's father, Mr. Bankole, who was away on a business trip when the information got to him. He quickly rushed back to the country to confirm if it was indeed true that his only child was dead. "How could I have let this happen?" Mr. Bankole wept. He had been so consumed by his work that he hadn't noticed his daughter's pain. Mr. Bankole began regretting everything now, how he had prioritized his business over his own daughter, how he never had her time, how he wasn't always there for her, even after the death of his wife, Mrs. Bankole. At the end, Dr. Hassan, the quack doctor who had performed the surgery that had ended Fumalaire's life, was caught and arrested by the police, and sentenced to life imprisonment. Amina, who also tried to escape and flee the country, was exposed by Dr. Hassan and sentenced to 30 years imprisonment for participating in the murder of Fumalaire. The school mother's behavior towards students like Fumalaire and other previous students who were forced to leave the school due to the bullying for their looks were also exposed, and they were arrested for it. The school's management also suffered for it, and the principal was arrested for child negligence and misconduct amongst its students, which led to the death of Fumalaire Bankole. The school eventually crumbled as parents started to withdraw their children, with immediate effect, not wanting to be involved in any type of scandal that would ruin their reputation. In the weeks following Fumalaire's death, Mr. Bankole was inconsolable. He visited her grave every day, filled with so much regret. "I should have been there for her," he would say over and over again. While in prison, Amina reflected on her actions. "I didn't mean for this to happen," she whispered to herself in the dark, cold cell. But it was too late. She had played a part in Fumalaire's demise, and she would have to live with that guilt for the rest of her life. The story of Fumalaire's tragic death served as a powerful lesson to all those who heard it. The once glamorous elite Girls' Noble Academy became a cautionary tale of the dangers of bullying and society's obsession with beauty. The moral lesson of this story is that we should try to be ourselves and not to always follow the judgments of the society. Also, we should never harm ourselves trying to change our physical appearances just to please someone. Because at times, physical beauty is not always everything. Bullying is also a very, very bad thing which can affect the mental health and the overall well-being of a child. If this story was interesting and educative to you in any way, please do well to share it to others. By so doing, you're helping to create more awareness against bullying. Thank you guys for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more interesting stories.